भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवती नैष्टिकीम्. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, 26th chapter, 28 verse. This chapter is titled as The Fundamental Principles of the Modes of Material Nature. Yad vidurhi aniruddhakyam ऋषिकानाम् अधीश्वरम् सारेन्द्रियवरश्यामम् सम्राध्यं योगिभिः शनैः यद्विदुर्हि अनिरुद्धाख्याम् ऋषिकानामाधीश्वरम् सारद इन्द्रियवरश्यामम् सम्राध्यं योगिभिः शनैः यद्विदुर्हि अनिरुद्धाख्याम् ऋषिकानाम् आधीश्वरम् सारदेन्दिवर श्यामम् सम्राध्यं योगिभिः शनैः. Synonyms: yet which mind, vidhu is known, he indeed, Aniruddhakyam by the name of Aniruddha, Rishiganam of the senses, Adishwaram the supreme ruler, Sharada autumnal, Indivara like a blue lotus, Shyamam bluish, Samaradhyam who is found, Samradhyam who is found, Yogibihi by the yogis, Sanehi gradually. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation: the mind of the living entity is known by the name of Lord Aniruddha, the supreme ruler of the senses. He possesses a bluish-black form resembling a lotus flower growing in the autumn. He is found slowly by the yogis. Purport: the system of yoga entails controlling the mind, and the lord of the mind is Aniruddha. He stated that Aniruddha is four-handed, with a Sudarshana Chakra, conch shell, club, and lotus flower. There are 24 forms of Vishnu, each differently named. Among these 24 forms, Sangarshana, Aniruddha, Pradyumna, and Vasudeva are depicted very nicely in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where it is stated that Aniruddha is worshipped by the yogis. Meditation upon voidness is a modern invention of the fertile brain of some speculator. Actually, the process of yoga, meditation, as prescribed in this verse, should be fixed upon the form of Aniruddha. By meditating on Aniruddha, one can become free from the agitation of acceptance and rejection. When one's mind is fixed upon Aniruddha, one gradually becomes God-realized. He approaches the pure status of Krishna consciousness, which is the ultimate goal of yoga. Om Jnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stavidam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadandigam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Yudapadakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajadam Sahagana Raghunathanidam Tam Sajivam Sadvaidam Savadudam Parijana Saidam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalidam Shri Vishakhanidamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpade Gopesha Gopika Kanda Radha Kanda Namostude Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sude Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarupasya Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Padidanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhudale Srimade Lokanath Swamidramine. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhudale Srimade Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Dinamine. Namaste Saraswata Devi Guruvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shvinyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Namo Namo Aniruddhaya Rishigeshindriya Atmane Namaha Paramahamsaya Purnaya Navuttatmane. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Dandavut Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for joining this very auspicious Srimad Bhagavatam class. So we were going through this chapter where Lord Kapila Dev instructing to Mother Devahudi about the material elements, the total or summum bonum of this material energy. So Srila Kapila Dev was put together this as Mahat Tattva. This is the great principle. Tattva means principle, the great principles. This contains 24 elements or great elements, which initially make a form that's called Pradhan, that's the Lord's potency or his internal potency, that transforms then further to these ingredients. So then it's in a very seed form, that's called Pradhan. Then it manifests as Prakriti, that's material nature. So then further, Kapila Dev explaining this to Mother Devahudi, this material nature, then again, from the Lord's potency, Lord's own potency, sprouts a false ego or ahangar. This is also Lord's potency. So we know that in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord himself says that, Devi Yaksha Gunamayi Mamamaya Durataya. These three modes of material nature consist of my energy. So this is the Lord's own potency, that then the false ego, which is called ahangar. Ahangar means that which is also a energy which is manifest in terms of for this material creation. So that's another aspect of it. In order for these various material elements, material creations, this false ego also manifested. So false ego is there already. That means it's also an energy of the Lord. So, but it is that how the living entities actually come in contact with it. So in various degrees. So, but it is there. So then we can see that Lord says that this false ego, this ahangar, then it also consists of three other aspects, three other elements that is called, and it makes of quality. It's actually makes it to the qualitative form. In that qualitative form is actually known as Sattva Guna, Rajo Guna, and Tamo Guna. Generally, we call it as mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance. So this is the material. When it comes to this false ego, then consists of these three modes of material energy, and then it actually takes forms in various ways. That's where it is the senses, mind, and intelligence, and then false ego, right? So we know that there is a subtle element. So initially, the gross elements and also the sense, the working senses, and the sense of perceptions, and the senses, actual senses. So these all manifested from the Supreme Lord, that from these great elements, these 24 elements. Then also the internal elements. These are called the internal elements or internal senses. That is considered as the mind, intelligence, and false ego. Then the senses. So then we can understand that then when it's come in contact with this false ego, and it says that its own energy, the false ego, then come in and transforms into, or in transformation of the false ego, when it come in contact with the mode of goodness, that then forms a mind, right? As we that said last class, that is the last verse of this chapter. So this then transforms to a mind. So then remember, the false ego then come in contact with the modes of goodness, with the modes of goodness, then is transformed, then the mind is formed. And that's where we were going through the characteristics of mind is that Sankalpa and Vikalpa. So this is the energy of the Supreme Lord. Again, right? It's Devi Yasha Gunamai. This is the energy of the Supreme Lord. So this energy, this mode of goodness, then the false ego is contact with this mode of goodness, and then it's actually forms a mind. So the mind's the nature of the mind is sangalpa and vigalpa, and accept it and reject it. And this is the nature of the mind. That's why which is flickering, and it's very prabala, as Arjuna says to Krishna that chanchalahi mana Krishna prabalam dhritam. Prabhalam, it's very prominent, it's very prabalam, it's very strong. It's not that easy. So that's the nature of the mind. But the the ways that one can control the mind, that's where actually it is mentioning today's words. So it is mentioned that Kabiladev, that the mind of the living entity is known by the name of Lord Aniruddha. So in the previous, false ego is in the name of Lord Sangarshana. Then we can see that. Then there is Vasudeva, that's a pure consciousness, right? The Shuddha Sattva. And that we can see that initially it is pure consciousness, and then it slowly contaminates, right? So this pure consciousness is considered as Vasudeva, or is also called Vasudeva Sattva. Then we come to this understanding that the mind, which is the known by the name of Lord Aniruddha. Aniruddha is, as we know that, there is quadruple expansions from the Sangha, from the Balara. That's the first quadruple expansion of the Supreme Lord. So we know that immediately the Tadegatma Garupa, Lord has different vilasas and the prabhavas and different plenary expansions of the Lord. And then there is a Tadegatma Garupa that's in the same Lord, same form. That's the Lord Balaram. Then from the Lord Balaram, then we can understand that there is a first quadruple expansions manifest. That is Vasudev, Sangarshan, Pradyumna, and Anirudh. So this Vasudev, Sangarshan, Pradyumna, and Anirudh is actually in the spiritual realm. They all have their own abodes of the Lord. Their own abode. There is Vaikuntha planets for each Vasudev, Sangarshan, and Pradyumna, and Anirudh. They are actually in the different directions. It's mentioned that they are in all directions. They are taking care of even the spiritual world. Then it is mentioned that the Vasudev and Sangarshan, Anirudh, and Pradyum, and they all will have another 3 other forms of expansion. So this is in the spiritual realm. So the Vasudev will have the Keshava, Narayana, Madhava. And as we know that, they also have this very beautiful form, blackish, bluish, blackish form, exactly like Krishna. And then they also have the mace, the Gada, Shanga, Chakra, and Gada and Padma, right? Shanga. Shanga means the conch shell, and Chakra, the wheel, and then Gada, mace, and the Padma, the lotus. So accordingly, when they have another manifestation from Vasudev, like Keshava, Narayana, and Madhava, then these changes, these different, the conch shell, the lotus, and the Gada and the Padma, and the chakra, and all changes accordingly the positions. So like that, there are 12 expansions over there in the spiritual realm. So that is Vasudev has 3 forms. Then Sangarshana has 3 forms. That is Vishnu and Madhusudana, right? And Govinda and Vishnu and Madhusudana. Then Pradyumna has then Vamana, Sridhara, Rishikesha. And then Madhusya. Then Aniruddha has, then again in the spiritual realm, that Padmanabha, Trivikrama, Padmanabha, and Damodara, like that. So this again, expands. Then as we can see that all the other forms of Vishnu, all the other Vaikuntha, the forms of Vishnu, is actually manifested from these various expansion, this 4 quadruple, the Vasudev, Sangarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. It's in the spiritual realm. Then we see that from the Sangarshan, right? The Mula Sangarshan, this is called Mula Sangarshan. From the Sangarshan, there is a Narayana manifestations. Again, the Narayana manifestations come from, that's as mentioned that, the Mula Sangarshan. And from that Narayana, again, there is second quadruple expansion. Then again, Vasudev, Sangarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, right? So these second quadruple expansions, whenever the Supreme Lord in the material realm, so the material realm is also controlled by this 4, the second quadruple expansions. Material realm also controlled by. So in various ways, Lord also manifests in the material realm. And again, that the second quadruple expansions and the control and controlling deities and all the expansions of this second quadruple expansions of Vasudev, Sankarsana, and Pradyumna Anirudh. And then what happens? Then again, that the Sankarsana, the Narayana manifests. From the Narayana only that Mahavishnu again, that's a Vishnu, right? Then from the Vishnu, then again, Garbhodaksha Vishnu, Shirodaksha Vishnu, all likes that. So in this various manifestation of the Supreme Lord or the controlling deity, who is the control the all these various elements, various aspects in this material world. So as it's mentioned that, so this Pradyumna is actually the controlling deity of intelligence, and as we can see that the false ego is Sankarshan, and then pure consciousness is Vasudev, and then the mind is Anirudh again in this material world. So this is the way that it comes down to this material world, also how it controls this material world. So it's mentioned here, Kapiladev was mentioning here, the mind is actually is known by the Lord Aniruddhas. So he is the controlling deity of the mind and the supreme ruler of senses. Why it is mentioned that the supreme ruler of senses? As we know that the senses are controlled by the mind, right? So he's also, mind is known as the sixth sense, right? Mind is considered as the sixth sense. Mind is the controller of the senses. And it's mentioned that he has a beautiful form. He has a bluish black form resembling the lotus flower, and it's very fresh and youth, and there is a beautiful form of this Anirudh. So when Lord Anirudh manifests in this material world, he is primarily seated in the heart. So that's what is mentioned that Sarvasya Chaham Hridi Sanya Vishto Mathagas Murdir Jnanam Abohanam Jasa Smriti. This mind, it's all actually come from whom? The Lord Anirudh. So that's what is also the yogis. It says that, right? When the yogis realize the Supreme Lord, then what happens? They can see the Supreme Lord. They realize the Supreme Lord, the four-handed Vishnu form. Right? We know that in the science of self-realization, Srila Prabhupada put that the picture of the four-handed Vishnu form is none other than the Lord Aniruddha. And it's also again mentioned that the Aniruddha is also resides in Svedati, right? There is a Garbhodaksha Vishnu, but again in the material world, there is an island called White Island. It's called Svedati. In that White Island, or the Shirodaksha Vishnu, or that other manifestation, is the guardian of this Svedati. And it is mentioned that he has in that guardian of the Svedati, he resides there, and the Lord Aniruddha. So he then controls, and that's why it is mentioned that the each and every individual soul is again a Siddhodaksha Vishnu generally says, but the actual form of that Siddhodaksha Vishnu is known as Anirudh, and he is then individually then exists in each and individual, and then like seated in the heart. That's why Srila Prabhupada also, and in the Chaitanya Charitamrita mentioned that the yogis slowly find him, and he, the Aniruddha. So why it is mentioned that? Because of when one meditates upon the Supreme Lord, initially he is just trying to meditate, trying to see the Lord. So as it's mentioned that one should meditate upon Lord Aniruddha when he is practicing yoga. And when he practices that yoga and meditate upon the Supreme Lord, that Aniruddha, and then slowly we can purify our heart. We can control our mind. Mind is the very, difficult to control, as Arjuna says to Krishna, I can control the wind, but I cannot control the mind. Why? Because of his Lord's potency, his Lord's expansion. So it's very prabhalam, sudridam, likes that. So it's very difficult to control. But if he takes shelter of, this is the Lord of mind, he is known as Aniruddha. If we take the shelter of Lord Aniruddha, then slowly we can come to our original focus and consciousness, that Krishna consciousness. That is the ultimate yoga. That's why Srila Prabhupada says, slowly we can find the Aniruddha. We can realize that Supreme Lord. So one has to always meditate upon Lord Aniruddha in order to stabilize our mind. Many people have the problem of stabilizing the mind. Mind is so flickering. Chanjala Mana Krishna goes here and there, very difficult to overcome. So then what happens? So we can also recite these words in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It says that And it's clearly mentioned that one has to stabilize, one has to steady his mind. We can recite this verse, this mantra, Namo Namo Aniruddhaya, Rishikeshindriyatmane, Namaha Paramahamsaya, Purnaya Nurtatmane. Namo Namo Aniruddhaya. This is the prayer to Lord Aniruddha. Oh Aniruddha, oh the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Namo, I pay my humble obeisances. Namo Namo Aniruddhaya Rishikeshindriyatmane. So he is the one who is Rishikesh, right? One who is controlling. Lord is also known as Rishikesh because of he's the controller of the senses. But in reality, that control of the senses, the Supreme Lord, another name is Aniruddha. Rishikesh, Indriya Atmane, the Atma, the Indriya, right? The senses and the mind. And Rishikesh, the control of the mind. And you are the control of the mind. You are the control of the senses. And Rishikesh, Indriya Atmane, Namaha Paramahamsaya. And also another name of Aniruddha is known as Paramahamsa. Why Paramahamsa? Because of the one who reaches to the stage of Paramahamsa. In another form of Aniruddha is actually he holds the Kamandalu, Danda, and he wears the saffron. Because of that, she represents that, and he is the completely controlled personality. Paramahamsa stage means one who is completely controlled. Hamsa means one who can distinguish the water and the milk. That's called Hamsa. Hamsa has a specific quality. Even if you mix water with milk, the Hamsa, the swan, can distinguish and distill only the milk out of water. So Paramahamsa means one who is completely liberated and completely so. Why Aniruddha is also mentioned that Paramahamsa? Because of one has to come to that state. So when we meditate, when we worship upon the Supreme Lord Aniruddha, one can come to that stage of that Paramahamsa stage. One can be completely free from this material entanglement and steady the mind. So that's why Aniruddha is also known as Paramahamsa. Namo Paramahamsaya Navurtatmane, Namo Namo Aniruddha Rishikeshindriyatmane, Namaha Paramahamsaya Purnaya Navurtatmane. One can completely eradicate is the troublesome mind and can fix on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, like that, Srila Prabhupada mentioned that here, that meditating on Aniruddha, one can become free from the agitation of acceptance and rejection. So, that's the problem of our mind. Our problem of our mind is Sankalpa and Vikalpa, acceptance and rejection. Accept it and reject it. Whatever it comes, whatever it is good for our senses, is favorable for our senses, we accept it. But if it is not unfavorable, if it is unfavorable, it's not favorable for our sense enjoyment, then we reject it. This is the nature. This is in the very lowest platform. So as is mentioned that this mind has 5 different other stages. 5 different other stages. There are one can reach to the highest stage of the mind. Mind also has a very lower stage. When the mind is completely entangled with our senses, and this is known as the lower stage. This is called Shipta in the Patanjali Maharshi's Yoga Sutra, which is mentioned like this. Shipta mind, it is very flickering, always looking for the enjoyment of the senses, goes here and there, Shipta, which is called. And then again, another stage is called Vishipta. Visha means the poisonous mind. So the poisonous mind means now because of the mind, the senses are engaged, the mind is there and completely with that, and then engage in all the abominable activities. Then it goes here and there, one direction to other directions, and completely entangled into this material world, completely entangled. Then what happens? We cannot even focus, concentrate on anything, and then completely in the dumb state of it, and do whatever it comes to the mind, say whatever it comes to mind, and perform whatever it comes to the mind, and no care, nothing, no controls. This is the stage of another stage of the mind. We can say that another stage of the mind is called mudha, very foolish. Then when it comes to that mind and the stage, when mind and the senses then works together and comes to the stage, is mood of foolishness. And people do so many foolish things in this world that we can see that, right? People sometimes crazy, they drink alcohol and drugs and addictions and so many things. They don't know what they are saying, what they are doing. And this is what is the stage of muda. That's another state of mind. And then another state of mind is known as ekagra, right? Then somehow we can come to the steady from this rejection and acceptance. And then we can come to the stage of steadiness. And steadiness is little more intelligent state. That means then the mind is now work with intelligence. Instead of senses, the mind is now work with intelligence. Now it comes to the stage called steady. That is called intelligence. So that's why it says that when we come and contact with the Supreme Lord. And when you chant the holy name of the mantra, then we can come to that first stage is called the Ekagra. That's the steady mind of studies. That's when we worship the Supreme Lord Aniruddha, then we can come to that stage of it. Then after that, then we come to the real stage of our mind. Real state of our mind is known as the Niruddha stage, or yoga Arudha stage, or Niruddha. So Niruddha is actually the topmost stage of this is the transcendental state of our mind. This is our original consciousness of our mind, the real nature of our mind, real state of our mind. So the Niruddha state, that's what is transcendence. So one can overcome all this lower state of this mind, then come to that, the mind now work with the soul, the spirit soul. And what is that? When we concentrate our mind upon the chanting of the holy name, now with the bhakti, that means Shravana, Kirtana, Vishnu Smarana, Pada Sevana, Archana, Vandana, Dasi, Sakya, Atma Nivedana. If we focus on all this, then we can transcend also our lower states of the mind when it's, always work with the senses. But now we overcome that, then we can come to the stage, and then that's where we really come to our original consciousness, that Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada says that the ultimate aim of the yoga is to bring to that transcendence, that Niruddha stage. When we come to that, the Niruddha original consciousness state, then only we can really experience and feel the transcendence. And in that transcendence, that we can see the Lord Aniruddha. So because of Lord Aniruddha, then manifest, and the Lord Aniruddha also helps one who worships. So then only we can see the Supreme Lord, we can worship the Supreme Lord like that. So like that, there are many, many instances in the Srimad Bhagavatam is also reveals that the Aniruddha, the glories of Lord Aniruddha. In the one time, Lord Shiva is glorified to Prajedas. When the Prajedas came to see the Lord Shiva was meditating upon the water. And there is a beautiful verse in the 4th canto, I think 24th chapter, something like that. The beautiful praise of the Lord Shiva on the Aniruddha. And it says that you are the Lord of the director of the mind. So what does that mean, director of the mind? So if we want to take the shelter of the Aniruddha, then our mind is steady, that we can focus on, our devotional activities. So like that, Lord Shiva is saying that. There is another instance in the Srimad Bhagavatam, that is Nagapatnis, when Krishna, danced on the Kaliya. Then finally Kaliya is subdued, and then Nagapatnis came, and then saying that, addressing to Krishna, that you are Aniruddha, you are the control of the mind. So please and bless us, so that Kaliya can also subdue that, Kaliya can also become your devotee. So like that, there are so many instances out there that one who worship the Supreme Lord like this Lord Aniruddha, then we can also control our. So the predominant deity of the mind is considered as the Aniruddha. So it's as is mentioned that. So Srila Prabhupada mentioned that one can actually meditate upon the Lord Aniruddha in order to stabilize our mind. And when we stabilize our mind by the mercy of Lord Aniruddha, then also we can focus on our real yoga, that is Krishna consciousness. And so, in different ways people worship. Some people worship moon god. In the material realm, if you want to worship the moon, that is as equal as worshipping the Aniruddha. And also scripture reveals that the sun planet, the deity of sun planet is none other than the Lord Aniruddha. So all the potency, everything is actually comes to the sun god. And if one worships sun god, is also as equal as worshipping the Lord Aniruddha. Likes that one who worship the Pradyumna, like Lord Brahma, that worship goes to the Pradyumna. So likes that. So one, if wants to stabilize his mind and focus on our devotional activities, as the highest of all, that we should focus our mind on Lord Aniruddha, and we can meditate upon him by the mercy of Lord Aniruddha. We should take shelter of him. We are actually generally known as Kripasiddhas. We need a mercy. We don't have any own potency of our own in order to progress in bhakti. So we should take shelter of the Supreme Lord and the devotees, and especially so that we can stabilize our mind and we can completely absorb in Krishna consciousness, and then we can realize that the Supreme Lord. So dear devotees, with this note, I would end here. Thank you so much for this wonderful association of Srimad Bhagavatam class today morning. And Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
We would like to wish everybody a safe and Krishna conscious day and week ahead. And we like to offer our prayers to the Supreme Lord by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama,
Hare
Rama,
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 Rama
Hare
Rama,
Hare.
Hare Hare.
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Rama,
Hare
Rama,
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 Hare
Hare Hare.
Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Rama
Hare.
Rama, Hare Hare.
Shri Nrsimha Jai Nrsimha Jai Jai Nrsimha Prahlades Jaya Padma Mukha Padma Bringam
Padma Bhingam.
Ugravira Mahavishnu Jalantam Sarvatomukham Narsingham Vishyanam Badram Nityam Nityam Namiham.
Namatam Namami.
Nrsimha Bhagwan ki jai,
Ki
Prahlad
Jai.
Maharaj ki jai.
Jai.
Let's offer our humble obeisances to all the Summa Vaishnavas. Vanchakalpatarubhescha kripa sindhu bhayevacha patitanam
Nidanam Pavane.
pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Vaishnavinda ki jai.
Jai.
ग्रंथ श्रीमद भागवतम की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि 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 बोल।
Thank you, Sumeshwar.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Hare
you,
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Hare Krishna, Hare Bol.